on the Yachts for Sale and Charter YouTube channel, another live stream, this time with my colleague Joost Goverts. And I've been waiting to interview Joost and to talk to him for a little while because he's one of the more experienced and more successful yacht brokers that I've worked with. What I'd like to do before we get started, we have a few people watching and usually that builds up the more that we talk. So if you can just confirm to me in the chat there at the side that you can hear us okay, and the volume levels are okay, that's always very reassuring, because if I know that you can hear us, then we can talk with a lot more confidence. So while I wait for one of you to comment on that. Actually, usually the opposite is true. If you can't help us, if you can't hear us, you're usually pretty quick to tell me in the comments section. So I'll get started just explaining a little. And a lot of people who watch the Yachts for Sale and Charter channel aspire to maybe be a yacht broker one day. And there's a lot of confusion and cloudiness about what you need to do to be a yacht broker, if you need some sort of a special education or degrees or whatever. And by talking to a lot of my colleagues, hopefully we'll show that yacht brokers come from all different walks of life. And that will dispel some of the myths. So, to get started, Joost, thank you very much for taking the time to do this.
I'm honored, thank you.
Well, we're honored. And
see you all.
You can't see anybody, actually.
I know. You have to say hi to them.
So how did you become a yacht broker, Joost?
You told me this week that was going to be one of the questions. And
I'll get you to sit as close as you can
to
the phone.
I had to think really long and hard because there was a combination of factors. I'm here in Spain, in Mallorca, since 1988, here with the plan to open a restaurant. Because one of the things I've done is that I was a cook, professional cook. When I saw how hard and long people had to work here, I realized that wasn't going to happen. And salad bar and grills were completely out of fashion here as well.
We've lost the connection.
Good.
Okay, we're back. Sorry, we lost the connection. If we do that again, I'll go on to 4G instead of the Wi-Fi. At least I know you can hear us now, because I've had a comment from Joachim, loss of video. But yeah, we're back on now, so you can hear us again, hopefully. Joost, you say I came to Mallorca. From where? From where did you come?
I am originally born in Holland, Amersfoort, right in the middle of Holland. I've always been a traveler and a world adventurer. I love moving around, and one of my real early dreams was to live in the Mediterranean. And I managed. So at some point when I was 32, I took the jump to sell my house that I had in Holland, give up the job. I used to be a social worker.
You're a social worker
as well. I'm 65 now, so then you get an opportunity to say you've done a couple of things. Yeah, I was a social worker. I'm trained at the job. I did that for 7 years. And I've always been an avid sailor. I love the water and the freedom and the space it gives me in my own head when I'm there. And yeah, I mean, sails are a wonderful way of propelling yourself forward. So when all failed here, because our wonderful label was not a great success, a friend of mine who was the dealer of a small brand of, no, it wasn't small at all, it was big in America, Sea Ray.
Sea Ray?
Yeah, we were selling speedboats, and that didn't really work too well in the beginning. So I started really small, didn't work so well until I found out it perfectly, I would know it inside out, and then on set. I sold a number of Sea Ray, but I think we're losing the connection.
Oh, yeah. I'll go to. Okay, sorry about that, chaps. We've now gone to 4G, which I think is more reliable than the Wi-Fi, apparently. So thanks for your patience. So Joost, can you just repeat the last thing you said? Your first yacht you sold was a Sea Ray.
Yeah.
After your fashion label just didn't take off.
Exactly. Together with my money, the lady left the space where we were.
No.
And
So your girlfriend or wife? Or?
yeah, I was a girlfriend.
And she-
We had this label together. We were working 16 hours a day,
Yeah.
and that doesn't work between people. Forget it.
Yeah.
Anyway, I came back to my passion, and that was boats. And the same as with this Wi-Fi experience here, learning by doing. I got to understand how it worked, and I've always, when I was doing something new in my life, I've always bought a bunch of books so that you are quicker in your
Yes.
start. Instead of trial and error, you can use a few things that will help you to sell. There's a nice book for people who are interested. It's called Selling for Dummies. It says it. We're all starters, and at some point there are good. Don't read the whole book, but there are some underlined
Yeah, good.
parts there, and you race through the book and just try and keep it in your head. And every now and then you use that, buyer signs. Don't talk too much when you're a broker, because that is so characteristic for brokers that it sets you apart if you talk a little bit less.
The more you say, the more likely it is you're going to say something daft.
Yeah, well, people that come into a new space where everything is very close, in a boat which is a relatively small space in comparison with our houses or our rooms, there's a lot to see. So now also this guy is yapping into my ear about, don't you like this, don't you like that? And these people are just sort of getting used to the space there.
Yeah.
Give them a bit of time. And a good friend of mine, also a broker, said, never talk about anything specific like religion or race or politics. Those are the first things I talk about, because I want them to remember me.
Yes.
Don't become offensive, but you can have an opinion.
Yeah.
Here's a human being trying to transmit some information about an object that they may like, otherwise they wouldn't have called you. And then from there on, relationships are important.
So
not everybody appreciates that, by the way.
I want to just stop you at that point, because you made a really important point that I want to say to viewers, not just those listening to the live stream, but also people who listen to the recording afterwards. A lot of people want to be yacht brokers, and it's a great thing to aspire to. It's a wonderful career, but you notice that the beginning of Joost's story, he sold his house and he moved to Mallorca. He moved to where the yachts are. And for a long time, I've said that's the first thing you have to do. If you really want to be a yacht broker, you have to be where the yachts are. And that might mean a big lifestyle change, and it might mean taking a big risk. So it's something you have to think about and calculate. But you would never have had the amazing experiences that you've had if you hadn't have taken the plunge and moved here.
Yeah, that's right. There are wonderful programs on television where you see people that pack everything up in Germany or Holland or wherever they are. They say goodbye to their whole neighborhood and they move over to the Canary Islands and start a restaurant 2 months later.
Yep.
The guy's been a carpenter and she was his wife, cooking every day. A number of times that goes wrong. So I lost everything and I had an opportunity to start. Thank God I had a wage at the time, 250,000 pesetas, was even quite a nice wage. And I had the opportunity to give this a try. A tool that is handy when you're working in the south of France, Italy, even Germany, Holland, is to speak more languages.
Yes.
And I speak 4 languages, and that makes it easier to communicate with more people.
So Dutch, English,
Spanish,
and
German.
So let's go on to the point of this this live stream.
Yeah.
And I remind everybody that your questions are very, very welcome, and I'm sure we'll be getting lots of questions. In fact, there's some already coming in, which we'll come to. So you moved to Mallorca, you started a fashion brand, it didn't go the way you'd hoped. So you started selling little speedboats. When did the transition from speedboats to sailboats come?
Well, in Lewis Marine, we sold Riva, Ferretti, and Sea Ray. In the UK, I think it was 1992, the economy went straight down. It was a short but very deep crisis. So Lewis Marine had to close. and I lost my job. They gave me the opportunity to sell the office in a couple of moorings, so that was fine. I took a few months holiday, I came back and started working for Fairline Spain. I didn't do that for a very long time because the owner of the company was, well, call it not my style of doing business. And because of my languages, I had to translate the not so much my style of doing business. And after 3 months, I said, you can do that yourself.
Yeah.
I then was asked by a yacht that you've gotten to know today, and I worked for the Valk Yachts for 7 years. A very good place to learn the first steps as a real yacht broker.
Yeah.
You know, the paperwork is very important. It's not just knowing about boats or knowing how to talk with people. There's a whole legal and fiscal situation behind it, and the more fluent you are with that, together with knowing your contract from front to end and back, is that you can guide your people through the situation, because you are always confronted with people that have enough money and quite a big ego at times.
Yeah.
Because they've earned that money, that gives them the feeling they're somewhere up there. They might be all the way up there in their own business, but now they're on your field. They don't feel confident when you're not confident.
Yeah.
So don't fake it, but try to have that information, what you would like to transmit. And you know, it comes with questions like, where will you register the boat? Where do you want to use your boat? Because not every boat is for every use.
Yeah.
A very fast, wonderful speedboat, even here speedboats of 40 meters length are not made to go across the Atlantic. Just look at the range, they can go 1,200 miles, so that is Corsica. And when people say, you know, this is what I want, observe as well if they really are the type of person to want that. It sounds a bit strange, like I would know better, but between wife and husband or friends as well, there are different wishes for that lifestyle.
So with De Valk, you were learning more of the contractual side, the professional side, really.
Yeah.
And is that what eventually brought you to the sailing yachts?
No. From the Valk I went to Dam International, and from Dam I went to Burton, that we then later changed into Northrop & Johnson. It is not that I am only a sailboat broker, it is that what people call me for, because the more you talk about Joost being a sailboat broker, the more people pick up the phone and say, oh, this guy is supposed to know something about it.
You've sold a lot of sailing yachts.
I've sold a lot of sailboats,
For the viewers who watch the videos that we've done, Child of Lear was the first sailing yacht that I ever filmed. You sold that, when was that?
We completed the sale on the 20th of April.
Yeah. So you've got significant experience in selling sailing yachts.
Yeah, together with my old partner Simon Turner, we were the Swan dealers for a number of years.
Right.
And that has obviously helped us to build a niche.
Yeah.
And that is something, for instance, in the Valk Yachts, you do not have a specific model type brand boat that you're doing. It's totally general brokerage. In Burton, that later became Northrop & Johnson, it's the same general brokerage image as well, yet you as a broker can carve out a name for yourself by selling these boats, and then when they're sold, Malcolm McLean and you will say, hey, Joost Goverts sold this boat, blah, 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 Shamana, etc. And then people say, oh, maybe keep an eye on that guy, or ask my captain to contact him. You know, it has taken many years.
But do you think there's a difference between selling sailing yachts and selling motor yachts? You've sold both. So what are the differences between the two?
In the very small boat, so when you're selling a 40-foot sailboat, it is most likely the first boat. And then people look at things like, oh, how big is the storage, or how fleshy is the boat? When the boats become bigger and they're 60 foot or 80 foot or 100 foot, you are definitely talking with somebody with experience.
Yeah.
So you need to know your stuff.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be the best one of the classroom, because they can, it's a conversation.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have to know your stuff. And the nice thing of selling sailboats is that there's not that much stuff to know. That sounds a bit, well, of every 100 super yachts, a super yacht is a boat over 24 meters or 80 foot, only 9 of them have a mast on it.
Sure.
So if my client says, just look for a boat between 90 and 110 foot, there is no more than 8 boats in the whole world.
Right. Yeah.
So if I can't know anything about these 9 or 8 boats, then I shouldn't be there. But in that space, I found that you can read these specifications, you can understand them. Whereas, with all due respect, if I would have to sell popular brands like Sunseeker, for instance, my God, I have no idea how many Sunseekers they sold of a specific series.
You see, I see it completely the other way around. It's interesting because I see it that there's a massive market for Sunseekers and Ferrettis and Azimuths.
Oh, there is, of course.
And so if I'm the Sunseeker dealer in Mallorca, it almost seems like a license to print money because people will always be Sunseekers. Whereas if some of your clients that you have...
I don't agree, because that client, I've tried that. Believe me, because selling sailboats is a bit more work, and they know everything, and it's hard work. But you can tie that client to you because of that knowledge. And he says, okay, I'm in good hands with him.
Yeah.
Whereas a motorboat buyer, I think one of the models is a Predator. There are Predators in Turkey, in Greece, in all the countries in between. So now this guy has yachtworld.com in front of him, and he has you on the phone. You got 5 minutes to start that relationship. There's no way you're going to have it.
Exactly, yeah. Because if I had a sailing boat buyer on the phone, I'd fluff it in 5 minutes because I would not know what he's talking about. I think knowledge on sailing yachts is so important. Whereas you can fluff it a little bit with the motor yachts, I think. Or maybe it's just that I have knowledge of motor yachts.
I sold quite a sizable motor yacht. It was very good money. And we walk off this boat. I had the offer in my hand, and it was fantastic. I thought, I'm going to sell this boat. And this gentleman said, is this aluminum? And it wasn't. It was fiberglass.
Yeah.
They buy the interior.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I've also met really nice people that knew everything about motorboats.
Yeah.
And they knew exactly which one they wanted.
Yeah.
I've been the broker for steamship Delphine for 3 years.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah. And
For those of you who don't know, the SS Delphine was built in 1929 for the Dodge.
For the Horace, I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce
Dodge.
it. Horace Dodge has actually designed these, I don't know how high, 2-story high steam engines, quadruple steam engines. And he hasn't seen the launch of the boat himself because that happened after he passed away. Yeah. Oh yeah. And when I was in Marina Jasmine in Tunisia for something else, I saw that boat and I thought, I'm going to knock on the gangway and have a chat. And bit by bit I got to know the then owner, really nice family. He had pumped a mega amount of money in that boat and restored it completely, with all due respect. Fantastic. His daughter was an art historian, and she went to the United States, looked through all the newspapers, found snippets of the cigar room. They would build that cigar room, and they built it all the wood on top of aluminum, because that boat was classed for charter at some point.
Yeah.
Well, I have great.
I didn't know that you represented Delphine. No. Let me just have a quick
look.
look.
I want to know about it before I can actually present it.
Yeah. I'm going to have a quick look at the comments to see what we've got coming in, and please do ask your questions because Joost is a mine of information and we'll be very happy to answer any of your questions. We have David Reinitzer watching us from Austria. Hi, David.
Hey, David.
Rudy Daugelt, who's one of the loyal followers. Rudy, I think you live in Holland, do you not? Or is it Belgium? Let me know. And by the way, thanks for the super chat, Rudy. Not necessary to send super chats. It's always appreciated, but not necessary. But Rudy asks, he says, hello, Sir Goverts. Hello, David. Technically, isn't a sailing yacht more complicated to drive than a motor yacht?
Well, yeah, you have to know how to sail. And you have to understand the powers that sail actually produces on your sheets, which are the lines from the angle, from the corner of the sail to your winches. And when that becomes too much, you have to reduce the amount of square meterage of sail so that your boat is having a less heel, because when it really heels over, the wind blows over the top of it, and not that you will go over it, but it doesn't help your speed. So trying to get back to a little bit more vertical position is positive. So going crazy with water in the gangway all over, it makes no sense whatsoever. Trying to have your waterline as long as possible produces the possibility to go maximum speed with the sailboat.
Yeah. So it's much more technical.
No, I don't think it's more technical, because if I would have to drive a boat with Arneson drives, I would also be a little bit out of my depth.
Yeah.
I've seen these things passing on the beach.
In water jets,
you have to know.
Yeah.
I've sold Opel C. Can you remember the boat with the big round windows? I did that together with Wes Sanford. Beautiful motorboat, totally crazy, with enormous big round windows and twin 4,000 horsepower MTU engines. There I quickly learned how complex that can be, because the buckets were a little bit dirty, the boat didn't do its speed. Yeah. With sailboats, when your sails are older, it doesn't work quite so 100% efficient as it does when everything's clean and new.
Yeah. I'm going to stop you there, Joost, because we've got other questions coming
Please.
in. Barbarossa 1957. Thank you very much for your question, Barbarossa. Are there a lot of large sailboats available? And he says he loves Maltese Falcon, so we're talking in that size range available for sale.
No, there are just 2 or 3 in the world of that size.
Yeah.
And also there you have the modern look, and you have the semi-classic look, but there's a handful of those boats, no more.
Now let me move on. Killimley Rice loves the fact that you talk about religion and politics. He says that's a great idea, I guess, talking about religion, politics, etc. Has it worked well so far?
Well, you have to start carefully, not to tread on anybody's toes, for sure. But when I feel offended, because some people feel completely free to use racist BS, I go utterly overboard. It's enough. Yeah. No shit. No.
So you shut them down if it gets too...
Yeah. Some time ago I had a conversation with a guy in Ibiza, and the old times were much better than now, and then when we talk about the old times in Spain, it is about the fascist ruler.
Oh, right, okay.
And that is not something I appreciate. And with all, I try to be as respectful as possible, but I'm definitely not going to slap him on the shoulder and say, yeah, man,
just to celebrate.
No.
Still,
you won't forget me.
Ramprasad Govindarajan, I hope I pronounced your name correctly. He says, hello, he's watching us from Germany. Killimley Rice again. Did Mr. Goverts sold yachts to Turkey? He says he lives in Turkey. I'm very curious about your ideas and experiences. This is a really good question, actually. What are your ideas and experience on yachting and the yacht market in Turkey? Have you had much experience there?
I had a really nice Turkish client. Later on, somebody told me one of the richest people in Turkey, such a wonderful person. I was going to sell him a 30+ meter sailboat, so that he could put that in front of his house in the Bosporus. He owned the boat already. And it didn't happen because the agent dragged his feet too long. The agent, as in the boat was registered in the Cayman Islands or something. And one of those companies, it didn't work. And eventually this gentleman said, "Oh, this is taking too long. Let's just forget it." 2 years later, he calls me and he said, "I have another person in the line," and that was his grandson. And he wanted me to sell his grandson a motor yacht because his grandson liked motor yachts. He said, "I have €1.5 million and you're going to sell my grandson boat." And that happened. I mean, wonderful.
Yeah. Have you been to Turkey? You've been
Yeah. I was 19 and was traveling through Turkey already. Wonderful people.
Yeah, it's for me some of the most hospitable and warm people. Quite tough to do business with sometimes, but lovely, warm.
Mediterraneans all have that wonderful business blood.
Right, we have loads more comments coming in. Rudy says, I believe he has a part of the answer during the interview. It's squeezy. The clients for a sailing yacht are very different from motor yachts. I think we'll all agree with that. We were talking on the boat actually as we were filming this week, and the conclusion we came to is that having a motor yacht is about getting to a bay, getting off the boat, onto the jet ski and splashing around. Having a sailing yacht is about getting to the bay. It's about the journey. It's not about the destination. We had so much fun filming actually Varsovie this week. Rudy also says he's from Belgium. That's right. I did know it was either Belgium or Holland.
What was that question about? What was easier and more difficult? Because it depends how you feel that. I mean, this profession is a little bit disappointment lane. You can work 16 hours a day and hear the word no 16 hours a day, and then, you know, in your most desperate moment, somebody calls you and said, "Hey, yeah, I received your letter," and blah, blah, blah. And then it happens. For me, it would be very difficult to sell those predators because that's like 100,000 no's. And there's never anything between that person and me. I need that to be able to, first of all, live myself and have some form of satisfaction. Because it doesn't always matter to me if someone says yes or no, as long as I appreciate a good contact.
Now, Debbie Wack has an unusual question. She says, and it's nothing to do with sailing boats. In your opinion, what's the best trawler? So I suppose we're talking explorer style, to buy under 60 feet.
There are Grand Banks, which are beautiful, and then there is this other brand. It looks a bit like it. And
Nordhaven?
Oh yeah, Nordhaven is beautiful, highly expensive. But there's another one. It might come to
similar to Grand Banks.
Yeah.
If it comes back, but there's your answer, Debbie. We both totally agree with that. Grand Banks is a wonderful brand.
In buying boats, there are points that you need to take care of, and that is that you want to be able to sell it again. So when you buy a boat, is there a market for that boat when you sell again?
This is a good one. Thanks for this. Frederick Moeri asks, wait for it, is it more important to seem competent to a buyer or just to be honest to a client when you don't know the answer?
The last. Our buyers, and don't overplay your hand, our buyers are razor sharp. They are, because otherwise they wouldn't be your buyer. They have, let's say a buyer spends 5% of his capital or his financial wealth on that boat, and he's now talking to you about a €3 million sailboat. Do not BS that person, because he will remember forever. You sell one person a boat and you do it in the proper way, and that means, sorry, I have to come back to that. Give me half an hour or give me a day or whatever it takes, but do not think that you can lie your way through. It's just not smart. Nothing to do with smart, but it's not good for you either, because that night you're laying awake at home thinking, oh, what am I going to tell the guy next day? Not necessary.
And what I've seen is that the top brokers will get that answer. They'll find that answer, but they won't give the answer until they have a reliable information to give.
Sometimes it's even really good not to give the answer immediately, because then, let's say, of all the 8 questions, you've given them 7 answers. Now you have one good reason to call him again.
That's true. Ah.
Makes
A wise man, Joost. You're a wise man.
experience.
And this is all free of charge. So, yeah, thanks for that question, Frederick. That's a great question. Paul Backer has also a good question. Have you seen, and remember, by the way, that Joost is in our Palma office. I'm not sure if I mentioned that at the beginning, but we're in Mallorca at the moment, in the Balearic Islands. So in that context, Paul Backer asks, have you seen a rise in Asian clients?
Very good question. I can't answer that question, because first of all, we need to determine in the big boats, in the smaller boats, in what level would you like to know the numbers? Write me an email. I'll try to find the right numbers for you, because this is all about statistics.
Yeah.
I can really only talk about my life in this, and sometimes Northrop Johnson writes their statistics. I do have friends in Asia, in Hong Kong and in Phuket, that are in the business. A rise in, because you remember Bart Kimman sold an enormous house,
huge
to a Korean guy. You know, that one boat may have cost 60 million.
Yeah, and the rest of it.
That could easily be 120 boats or 500,000, and then your numbers would have gone up like that.
Well, the second part of his question is also interesting. He says, is there a difference in your experience in the approach of an Asian client over a European client?
Many years ago, I sold a Ferretti to a man in Thailand. It's just that one experience. Really nice people. You become a friend of the family, which in Europe is neither needed or required. You do your job. You every now and then you have contact with people. How's it going? Are you still enjoying your boat, etc. I can't answer that question. I don't know. I haven't sold enough of them.
The only thing I have noticed at boat shows is that when there are Asian clients looking at a boat, they tend to be in a big group with lots of friends, lots of advisors, and actually in my experience it's similar with Russian clients. To get to the man who's the decision maker, often you have to go through advisors, and whereas in my experience with the European clients, you can pick up the phone to them and talk to them directly.
Yeah.
I don't know how much of that is culture.
But it's not always the person that takes the decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can talk to the gentleman, but when his wife gives him the cold shoulder 4 weeks on end, no boat.
All of a sudden the decision making changes.
I can write a catalogue of excuses, and it's 80 out of 100 times it's the in-laws or my wife, complications. So you need to figure out who's calling the shots.
It's Squeezy says, Paul, there is definitely a rise in Asian clients.
Okay.
So it's Squeezy has some
Got
data
some
on that.
numbers. Send them to me.
Yes.
Interesting.
Back to Ramprasad Govindarajan. With motor yachts, there's some good questions coming in.
Yeah.
With motor yachts adapting many cutting edge technologies, are there any new tech that's being adapted by sailing yacht developers? What a good question. Or is it that buyers of such yachts are looking for nowadays? So yeah, the question is basically, we see all this new technology in motor yachts, diesel, electric, fuel cells. What's the new technology in sail?
Oh, hang on a moment. We've had ASI pods in motorboats since the year zip.
Okay, that was my example. So bad example.
No, we're asking. This fuel cell thing, you had your conversation with Peter Lursen. Exciting. I'm yet to see one. Sailboats, if we go back to the time that there were T-clippers until today, where we have 9 knots of wind or 12 knots of wind And these America's Cups
Yeah.
boats on foils are actually going 45 kilometers an hour.
Faster than the wind.
Much faster than the wind.
Yeah.
4 times the speed of the wind.
Yeah.
With carbon rigging, carbon mast, carbon machinery, carbon the whole lot on foils. I think that sailing has left the planet in comparison with motor yachts. Really.
I told
It
you
is
you were sailing
extremely
yacht, man.
exciting because just the construction of sails is absolutely not what people think of it.
No.
You're not buying a bunch of cloth and then the old lady is sewing a sail out of it. No. These are all glued together and baked and etc. It's fantastic technology.
Yeah.
Super exciting. Yeah.
You should contact Joost to have a conversation on that. It sounds like an interesting one. A great question. Patrick Blau has a question for Joost. Could you expand on the pros and cons of chartering a sailing yacht in general?
The pros and cons. I think there are only pros because it's an experience, and you have the opportunity to learn about that brand and that model and that configuration of the boat. If you would, a lot of sailboats are also for charter. So would you like to have the experience of a racing yacht? Well, charter a 60 or a 70 or an 80-foot Swan with its own captain and a couple of pro crew so that you are not breaking everything, and give that a try. If you want to go with the family or with a few mates on the Bavaria with a wonderful roll-in, roll-out sail, nice and easy between the islands, it's another experience. I've done both, and in both situations I came back with new information thinking, this is cool, or that was a nice week, but it wouldn't be for me.
Yeah.
I've sailed quite a few catamarans because I like these things. They're fast, it's sports. What do you want? I mean, nowadays you see a lot of catamarans, but I tend to describe them as sail-assisted motor yachts because it's a lot of furniture, it's a lot of weight, short rig, and they don't really go fast and furious. Not that everything that I drive has to go fast, but you want to see a certain response from the amount of material and money you've put in.
Yeah.
So therefore, before you buy a boat, yes, I tend to think that it is important to read a lot of tests, talk with a broker when you think that he is upfront about his information and his experience, and then try to picture what it is that you like and say, okay, I think we're going to go fast. Well, my advice is charter a fast boat if it really is for you. Because sometimes, we want to go into a fast car and you find out that, your foot is now making you nervous.
Yeah.
Is this what I want?
Yeah.
And you're not on your own. So, your girlfriend, your wife, your friend, whoever may say, not for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I think it's always good to charter before you buy. If you're a first-time buyer.
It is not so easy to resell your boat.
No.
The proof is in the pudding. Look at all these websites where all these boats are. When you have one, it's wonderful. When you want to sell it, it can take a while.
Yeah.
And it comes with a
Price tag.
Yeah.
Lots more questions coming in. Pansani Crocodile. That cannot possibly be the right pronunciation. Crocodile. Pansani says, I've always wondered if you have listen to this. This is good. If you have two sailing super yachts, similar in length, displacement, and features on board, one is a sloop, the other is a ketch. Which one would be more expensive? You honestly always wondered that.
Same.
Now you're going to find the answer to your question.
More or less the same price.
Really?
Yeah. Because the ketch has 2 rigs, comes with a bit of extra money, but the sloop has an enormous mast on it that comes with more rigging. I think your final price is more or less the same. We're talking about a new boat, is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that comes more or less the same. They're also made for different purposes. A catch is wonderful if you want to travel with the boat, uh, because it is easier to reduce your total meterage
Of sail.
of sail. When you have a 30-meter boat, then that one mainsail is a lot of work for two people. Not seldom you have to crawl into the boom when it's not an in-boom furling or an in-mast furling. That comes with risks. Whereas when you have two masts on a 30-meter boat or a 20-meter boat, the masts are smaller, the pressure point is also lower in your boat, so the boat doesn't heel over as quick as a sloop. But one other thing that, call it disadvantage, is you cannot go upwind as much as with a sloop.
I mean, as you know, I've only just learned that a sloop is a single-masted sailboat.
is.
Because I used to call them single-masted sloops, and I got so much mockery from my colleagues. But it seems to me there's a lot more sloops than ketches out there.
Yeah. That is because with a sloop it is easier to sail upwind, or call it towards the wind.
Yeah.
The keel under the boat, together with the mast configuration and a good man at the helm, will make you able to sail approximately 25 degrees to the wind. With a catch that is not going to be that high to the wind, it's going to be 45, 50 degrees. Yeah. So it's a different travel model.
Let me stop you there because lots more questions coming in. I hope that answered your question, Mr. or Mrs. Pansoni Crocodile. Steve Hen 1000 asked, what are some of the nicest places around Europe to keep a small liveaboard motor yacht? I know my answer to that. I'm curious on your answer.
I would think that Greece is a lovely place to be.
Yes.
Because of its simplicity. Mallorca is mega expensive.
Yeah.
Very, it's a lovely place to be, but it's extremely expensive. Another nice place I think would be Italy, on the Adriatic side.
There's not great coastline though on the Adriatic side. There's not. I would have said Croatia. You see.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You got all those islands. You got wind,
and it is still more affordable.
Yes. So Croatia and Greece, and actually, there's no reason at all why you can't come down the Croatian coastline, go to Greece. Yeah. Sounds like a lot of fun to me.
Like a plan.
What a great question. I do like this. Chris Hodson, and Chris, thanks very much for all your support. I know that you watch, I think, just about every video, and I recognise your name. I love this question. Would you sell Sailing Yacht A?
That Sailing Yacht A, if I would sell it?
Yeah, if the owner said, Joost,
would I take it on as a listing? Yes, I would.
Would you really?
Yeah, of course. Why not?
I'd give it to you. I wouldn't want it.
Why not?
Because I think that you can spend, with those insanely big and extremely customized and very, very expensive, well over 100 million, if not 200 million. I think you can get stars in your eyes where you want to sell them, and you can waste years and years of your life and never find a buyer. I would take, if I was a sailing yacht man, I would take a Swan 100 over Sailing Yacht A every day.
Yeah, but I take them both. You know what it is? This what you said, and it's right. These stars in the eyes and dollar signs all over the ceiling when you go to bed. Make sure you leave that behind you.
Yes.
I am not a major luxury man. You have to remain yourself. I just work to feed the kids and get them to school. I'm not here to compete with my clients in who is the richest guy in the room, because I lose. Yeah.
Another good question here, again from Frederick Moeri, who says, do you think motor yachts can learn something from multi-hull sailing yachts?
They're doing already. Yeah. There are many sailboat brands and motorboat brands that have gotten into the Multihull, so lighter displacement.
Yeah. Actually, Sunreef are doing a great job with motor catamarans.
And you need smaller engines, you have more space for your solar panels. I think there is an enormous space to have more solar on board and try and reduce the carbon footprint of every boat.
Another question, this time from Meisel Bergsprecken. He says, I've heard more people are buying boats in their 30s and 40s now than ever before. Are they different in tastes than older owners? Do they like a different interior layout, garage size, etc.?
Yeah, there are indeed people of 30, 40 buying their boats. Yeah, you know, the IT world is mainly manned by smart people who have startup companies and you know, make a bundle of money. And they still want to get out there and go sailing, and they want all the gadgets on board. The ones that I met there, because there might be a whole other group, but they love their boats, because it is also in a world that's more and more hectic. I have a feeling, because of all the information that's been thrown at us, it's a wonderful place away from home to have quality time with your friends and family. You know, you take the lines on board, you go, and you have an adventure together. And I think that now during this COVID time, because we are still in this world that's riddled with COVID, hopefully for not too long anymore, people are looking for a safe place to be.
Yeah. Another question, again from Killimley Rice. He's asking, is there more of a market for regular motor yachts as compared to really unique designs? He uses Steve Jobs' Venus as an example, which was a real one-off. He said, I don't understand why most motor yachts look similar. So the question is that because there's just more of a market for standard-looking boats?
Yeah, I remember when I was a cook in a pretty good restaurant in Switzerland even, that was part of a chain. I was taught from the very day that that portion of food had to be exactly the same as the other portion. Yeah. Despite that people pretend to be unique, they're dead scared of making that step.
Yeah.
There are not that many people that are willing and able to step out of their comfort zone and say, I'm going to do something that's bold and that's for me. So therefore, when you have your supermodel on the back of your motorboat, that's where we want to be. Yeah. And that's what we know. It's not done. It's just that I think that, that's how the business works.
Yeah. And if I can put in my 2 cents, Killimley, as well, a lot of yachts, Sunseeker, Azimuth, Ferretti, Princess, these brands, they build in fiberglass, and the way that they're built is with a mold. They actually have a mold of the hull and several molds of the superstructure, and the hull and the superstructure pops out of the mold. And the reason they do that is because it's the most cost-effective and quick way to build boats, and it's become a very good way of building boats. And what that means is that they can sell yachts at a lower price than they would have to do if it was a one-off, had to be engineered differently. You have to figure out where the engine's going to go. You have to get a designer to make the superstructure. So the reason that most yachts look very similar is because they literally come out of a mold, and it's become a cost-effective way of building yachts.
For the audience to understand how complex it is to engineer a boat, when you have a one-off out of fiberglass or carbon, you cannot just say, I want my main owner's cabin now in the back, because in the back we have the laundry room or other heavy stuff. So now the engineer has to figure out where to put it. It's the same as on a plane. the thinking is the same. You cannot have all the passengers sitting on one side.
Yeah.
In the same way, we have to think about a boat. So when you are about to board on the plan of designing your own boat with a designer, have your plan how you want to live there clear. Because when you're halfway the process, you're now telling the guy, hey Harry, you know, why don't we do this or that? Wow, that's going to come with a few surprises.
Yeah.
That is not always possible.
I think as well that a yacht is an aspiration, that when people think, when I make 10 million, when I make 100 million, I'm going to buy a yacht. They don't think, and when they get there, they just want to buy the yacht. They don't want to have to sit down and design it. They want it to be there ready to buy. Then maybe in a second or third moment, as they sell and resell and have more yachts, then they might start to think, I'll design a yacht. But
I see that a little different. In sailboats, there are definitely people who have their ideas, they have built up their companies, they've seen it go down, they've built up others. They are creators and they are full on in their wishes to do things, and they will make them happen. And to design your own sailboat and to make it work together with a team of designers, architects and builders, for some people is a much bigger dream than actually sailing them. Because it's a 2-year, 3-year operation, and you get to know these carpenters, and you're having your drinks after work with these guys, and you're living somewhere in the north of Holland in a small village for a couple of months of your life, and that is an experience in itself. Yeah. It's a very different experience than coming to me and I'll show you the boat and 3 months later it's yours. You know, because then you have to go out and sail it. Whereas if you're a little bit scared of sailing, oh, now we've been building for 3 years, let's go sail. I was not doing quite what I wanted. I'm
interested in your opinion on this, because Paul Backer, and thanks for joining in the conversation, Paul, he replies to Killamly Rice. He says, I think that refers back to being able to sell the yacht again. Unique does not translate well in terms of depreciation. What's your opinion on that?
It's an excellent question. It's a very good question. Whilst, let me see, I have to figure out an answer to that. Because I have sold quite a few unique yachts as well, of which there was only one in the world. Practically all of them are made out of aluminum, because you can start today as long as you have a plan and a cutter. Yes, it's unique, more difficult to sell. I've sold mine okay, as a matter of fact, because but it's a crazy boat. Yeah. That makes it difficult.
I think
if you have to go through the bathroom from your owner's cabin, and I've seen that, from the owner's cabin through the bathroom to the salon, that wasn't a great plan. So you need to find somebody who says, oh, I love that. That's not so easy. That's going to come with a price tag. When you build a special boat for yourself, make sure you build it in a renowned shipyard.
Yes. Yeah.
Because there are 4 P's in my talk about boat marketing, and that is the product. It has to be a proper brand. It is the promotion of this thing. You know, make sure you go to a brokerage company where they pull all the stops out to try and sell that boat. And then it's about the place of the boat, so the market position where you have it. Do not put it in the end of Timbuktu, because nobody will buy a ticket to go to Timbuktu to see one boat. Here in Mallorca we have dozens of boats, and so come here, this is the marketplace. That keeps the P of price healthy. Now, if it still doesn't sell, it has to do with the price.
Yes.
But if you put it in the back end of beyond, that price will come down bit by bit by bit, further and further. I sometimes have to convince people to say, look, it's more expensive here, but bring it here, because we work together with other brokers. We do everything to sell your boat, and I'm very happy to split the commission when somebody else brings the client. Yeah. I now have Amakena 40-meter Huisman for sale from 1996, a beautiful boat. the owner keeps it in Tarragona, which is a bit of a trip to get
I was
there.
going to say Tarragona as an example, yeah. Because
But we're bringing it to the boat show, and that gives an opportunity. And I had
That's
it
the right
here a
thing,
month
yeah.
ago, and I introduced the boat to 14 other people,
yeah.
good brokers that have a potential client.
You couldn't do that in
that's the
Tarragona.
job. No,
That's the thing. And people take the yacht to Tarragona because it's inexpensive to do it.
correct.
But the inexpensive turns out more expensive because if you don't sell the yacht, you've got year after year of depreciation. It's better just to rip the bandage off, get it to Mallorca, where the shop window is.
Yeah.
So thanks for that. My take on that, by the way, Paul, is I think it's a risk to have a unique yacht. You might even sell it for more than you paid for it. Hardly ever happens, but it does. But it's more likely that it's going to be very difficult to sell, I think. It's a risk. But as many clients have said to me many times, I'm building the boat for myself, not for the next guy.
That is absolutely true. When you have a sensible, take the interior distribution of a mainstream boat, of which 60 are built. Now, build that, bigger, smaller, with more frills or less frills, in a very good shipyard. You will always sell.
Yes.
Because it makes sense. There is something logical about what's being built there. The only thing is you didn't want it in a mainstream brand. Now you want to have something a bit more flash, built in a renowned shipyard. I think your chances of reselling are good as long as you use all the tools in the promotion, the Matterport, the video. Make sure people actually see that. That comes with the cost, but it's not enormous.
I'm going to move us
By
on.
the way, us brokers, we pay for these videos for you.
We do. I'm going to move along quickly because I want to keep this to within an hour. We'll probably go a couple of minutes over, but just quickly moving on. Mylene Suarez says, "Hey dude," that's probably you, Joost. "Hey dude, shout out watching live from the Philippines." Patrick Blau says, "Great interview, nice format." Thank you very much, Patrick. This is the question I wanted to get to. Rugby 342. Has anyone ever built a sailing swath?
A what?
A sailing swath. Do you remember
Has
Abaking?
anyone ever built a sailing swath? What is a swath?
Abaking Rasmussen built military vessels with a swath hull, and if my memory serves me right, it's like a catamaran with a very specific hull design. They built one yacht this way, or motor yacht, and it almost foils as it gets up to speed.
Oh yeah, they're a little bit like the dolphins in Greece. If sailing boats, no, I don't think that was ever done because you don't have a keel there. What comes closest is the catamaran. There was a question here.
Rudy Degelt says, "You're not ignorant, Rudy. Far from it." He says, "I'm very ignorant, but my question may be silly. But don't you think that sailing races have been given a rather negative image? This is not the case with motor yachts." Do you think there's a negative image to sailing races?
Nauterswan and Southern Winds and Wally, and Oyster, they always have their own races to tie, to offer more to their clientele than just the product. It gives a conversation between the members because they have dinner and they have rallies and they have races and they go on shore and they ride horses together and play golf and Of course, there's more around sailing than just being on the water.
Yeah.
It is a fantastic platform, as a matter of fact, to sell more boats or make people acquainted with these boats. There is usually an open afternoon that is on lay day. That lay day is the day that there are no races. People then wake up a bit later from the night before. And in the afternoon, you can go and see the neighbor's boat and listen to these guys sailing it. Also on the water, you see each other sail fast. And believe me, I have even done races in yachts, which are not particularly race boats, but when you have a line of yachts one is always faster than the other one. And you should see these boys get real aggressive about, oh, we want to win this one. Oh, yeah.
Younger turners.
Yeah.
Joost, I'm going to give you one.
So I think it's positive actually to do it. It's not a silly question. I think it's positive.
I'm going to give you one more question and then we'll bring it to an end. And the question's from It's Squeezy, who says, would you guys say that the market is harder right now because of COVID? I think you're going to be surprised by
his name?
It's Squeezy.
Squeezy, again, I do not have all the numbers. I have been quite busy and I closed a good deal, and I can only say I do one thing at the same time. I do not have all the numbers. I hear from people that business is good, but also there I have to be honest, I don't know whether these people are busy with their own business or their own boat, and they don't call me when the deal falls through and oh, how busy I've been. I also hear of people that haven't sold a thing in a year. Very sad. It happened to me as well many years ago. 14 months without a deal. It's hard.
It's brutal. Yeah.
Brutal. It's very bad for you know.
Yeah.
We're very good in dealing with our victories, but you know, dealing with your defeats is much more difficult.
Yeah.
More difficult times. Yeah, definitely more difficult in the smaller boats, if you ask me, because when you are a middle class person and you have a few car workshops and you before could buy your 50-foot sailboat second-hand or new, whatever, you now are very careful and probably very worried if your business is going to survive this COVID time. Next to that, we have travel restrictions. So I think I've answered it. It's more difficult.
I said it was the last question, but there is one other question because I know you're going to enjoy answering it. Thierry de Vico. Hi Thierry. Simple question. He says, hello from the Riviera. What's best, furling boom or furling mast?
Furling boom. You keep your weight lower. And since, you know, can you see me? When the weight comes down like this, there's no problem. But when the mast is like this, it wants to come down. So when you have sail rolled up in that, but you do not only have sail rolled up, you have a piece of metal, aluminum most likely, this diameter, all 30 meters up. So this wants to come down, always in boom furling.
Excellent. And on that bombshell, we'll bring this to an end. Thank you so much, everybody, for your questions.
Nice to see you.
It makes it, you get a buzz after all this.
Good questions.
So really enjoyed it. I'm trying to do these live streams as often as I can. Please do leave your comments if you'd like to have more live streams. And actually, there's a lot more videos coming up because we've just been filming so many yachts. And in the next couple of weeks, I think I've got 6 or 7 yachts, 6 or 7 videos in production. So look out for them. And thanks again for joining us. Have a good weekend, everybody.